arrest 4 months ago, our family's life has been turned upside down, and not only have we had to adjust to life without him, but we've had numerous struggles that have been unnecessarily compounded by our dealings with the detention center. The biggest thing has been that with the loss of our primary breadwinner, our family's income has dropped to the brink of poverty, despite my mother's income, which is over $14 an hour in a full-time job. Several $100s have been spent so that he can call his children, his wife, and his mother, and several more have been spent on his canteen so that his basic daily needs can be met. And these are, of course, all expenses that have to be taken care of on top of our day-to-day living expenses that we face as a family. Of course, the bills keep coming in, and that doesn't stop just because he's in jail. And in addition to the financial struggles, we have had multiple frustrations with the detention center that seem like they could easily be dealt with. Something as simple as trying to find out the visiting hours at the jail can be a trying ordeal. Between 2 members of my family, 4 phone calls were made to the detention center to try and find out when we could visit. Each time they were given different answers. My father was given another set of answers from his guards, and when my sister finally did go up to visit him, she was given another set of visiting hours. So a total of 6 answers were given to a question that seems like it should have had one simple, quick solution. Another issue has been the visits themselves. Under the current system, we have to get to the center at least 1 hour before our visiting time to get in line, all the while just hoping that we'll be within the first 5 people to sign up for that slot. It's not unusual to have to wait at least 2 hours or more for a 30-minute visit. If you show up for a 9 o'clock visit, but all of those slots have been filled, you have to wait for a 10 o'clock visit, but you can't go ahead and sign up for that 10 o'clock slot. You have to wait another 30 minutes or so just to get your name on the list. And if 5 people have already lined up to sign up for a 10 o'clock slot, then you're just out of luck and you have to come back another day. Getting any kind of information from the detention center is impossible. It takes at least half a dozen phone calls to learn even the simplest things, and that's really if you're lucky. In the week following my father's arrest, it felt as though our entire family did nothing but play phone tag with various people. It was not unusual to find 4 of us in the living room, each on our cell phones, trying to find out something different. Things like, how do we go about getting him a lawyer? When do we find out about bond? What do we do about picking his truck up from the police? We didn't know how to go about any of this, and we're not uneducated people. The entire time, you're just wishing that there's someone that you could talk to who could walk you through the process, but there's not. And it seems like one thing that would certainly make it easier is if there was some sort of information center where you could get simple, easy, and most importantly, accurate information. Certainly the greatest violation that our family has endured was being told that we did not have the right to know when our father was admitted into the hospital. Approximately 2 months after my father's arrest, he attempted suicide and was taken to Greenville Memorial, and we were not informed. The only way that we found out was that my mother went to visit him that morning and was told that he was not on the premises. After a series of questions, she figured out that he must have been taken to a hospital, although she was never told this outright. And she proceeded to spend the day contacting pastors and other individuals, asking them to find out what they could. 8 hours later, we find out what has happened to him. And when asked why we were not informed of the fact that he was in the hospital, we were told that we did not have the right to know, as he was now a ward of the state. Yet, in spite of this, they had no problem with billing my mother's insurance for his hospital care, even though we didn't have the right to know that he was in the hospital to begin with. The idea that you...
I need to go ahead and...
Sorry.
You're running over time.
Individual facts, everything she's saying is different facts.
Yeah, I want to hear this lady.
The idea that you can take away a family's right to know the well-being of their loved one is one of the most appalling things I've ever heard. My father's status as an inmate does not take away from the fact that he is still my father. It does not take away from the fact that he has been married for 26 years and that he has a mother and siblings who all still care about him very much. That you would be so bold as to rape a family of their right to know is a horrendous personal violation. The thought that keeps going through my mind is, what if he had died? When would we have found out? And would we have been hearing it on the 5 o'clock news before someone from the detention center bothered to notify us? All I'm asking of you today is that you stop and think. to think about the people who are behind those mugshots and those associated with them. That you think about the husbands, wives, and children's lives that have been turned upside down in the wake of an arrest. Think about the fact that many of these inmates have yet to be found guilty of any crime, but in the meantime, their families are paying a heavy price. It's not just about the financial extortion. It is the added emotional turmoil that could easily be avoided. The families of the inmates are just as much victims as those who were originally hurt by the crime. The difference is that there is no assistance for us. We are left on our own to pick up the pieces with no support group waiting in the wings to help us. Even our church and extended family have not been reliable sources of help. So when you are making decisions concerning the Greenville County Detention Center, remember that there are just as many innocents who are affected by your decisions as inmates. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. I think there was somebody else that was wanting to speak. Was there anybody else wanting to speak? Just you? Okay, would that be okay if we can hear it from this one
We'll
lady?
hear one more.
Okay, thank you.
State your name and your address for the record.
Any of my concerns is the same as hers. I do appreciate you listening to us. We thank you very much for that. And the cost of the services there at the detention center, one concern is that I would like to see addressed is why the family could not take simple things like underwear, socks, maybe toilet articles to the detention center. They seem to be very expensive. I don't know what people do that have absolutely no money. The phone calls, they're very expensive. The canteen calls just to get some different snacks. From what I've understood many times is the food services is not the best in the world, and maybe some of y'all think, well, they're inmates, they don't deserve all that good food, but they're still our family, and we have to deal with that. We have to deal with listening to that, and some of them have to pay. I know one charge is $5 if you put in for a medical referral. I think they call it a 502. Sometimes you don't get to see that medical person that you're asking for. It's still a charge of $5, whether you see them or not. There's a charge of $5 if you ask for something for a headache. I don't know where this could ever be changed. The visits, like Amanda said, there's 2 visits a week, 30 minutes, so that leaves somebody out from getting to see their family member. Again, I appreciate you listening. I don't know how these things can be addressed, but they are concerns. I've talked to many people up there, and I've talked to many people. I've made phone calls when my son would call and say, will you call this man's mother, tell him that he loves her, tell him he's okay, see if she's okay, because he can't afford to call her. She can't afford for him to call her. As a mother, as a parent, that's heartbreaking. And again, I don't know what the answer is, just like some of these other things we've heard today. There's many unanswered things. But if there's any way that some of these things can be addressed, I know our family would really appreciate it. Because we could stand here and go on all day long, but I know you do not have the time to listen to all that, but we do appreciate your time.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
You got a question?
No, I just want to make a statement because I hear this all the time now. Yesterday I stepped away from home for about 3 hours. I came back and I had 24 calls. 18 of them were from jail. I hear all the time that 502s are not always answered, and I share that with Mr. Dorriety and with Mr. Bartmus. People tell me that they've been there 3 and 4 weeks and they've been trying to see a doctor since they've been there and they don't. Our medical department, in my opinion, is really, really very sad. And I say that openly because I hear the complaints all the time. Now, I would really like to know from staff exactly how much is in that account from those $5 fees at this time, because one guy knows tremendous. And I'd just like to know so that maybe we can do something about that $5 fee. Those telephone calls are $1.30 for each family. each call, and I think that is outrageous. I think that that is a service that should be provided. If families are to help rehabilitate people that have committed crimes, they need to be in contact with them. They can't be in contact with them if they don't have the monies to do it, and I think Greenville County can do better.
Mr. Canal?
Thank you. Let me start real quick with the $5 medical fee that has been talked about. Actually, that was done by ordinance by council back in 1994, I believe. August of 1994. It actually directs county staff to give reimbursement not to exceed $5 for medical, exactly what we're doing. So we're following the guidance of a county law.
I think I stated that I was opposed to the
That was
ordinance.
put into place back in 1994. It also talks about any charges are to be reimbursed if, for instance, an inmate does cause some damage to the facility, when we can deduct money from an inmate's account and that kind of thing. It's spelled out in ordinance number 2611.
The second thing is the action of collection. Section 4, which indicates that, if an inmate died in the custody of the detention center, we have a right to, go after his property. Even though there's a family living there, his family, his home place, we have a right to go against his property and, put their kids out on the street because of what has happened inside the jail. And I don't think that's right. While we got them in there, we're scamming them enough. So I think to remove Section 4 and Section B would help out a great deal. Second thing I'd like to bring to your attention is, and this came from Mr. Cornell, $1.9 million basically stayed within the detention center. And this is used for a variety of different things with the detention center for the benefits of the inmates. Now, it says here that the detention center has $1.9 million. But at their last balance shows they only have $268,000, $759.48. That's a big difference between the 1.9 million. And I'd like to find out what happened to the other $1 million within this time span. And the only one I know to ask is Mr. Dorriety.
Mr. Dorriety, are you prepared to answer?
I'm not.
We'd need to get an answer from,
I probably need assistance from Mr. Hansby from the finance side of the house. But we can show records of anything that would, money come in, money went out, everything that happened.
okay. That makes it sufficient to try.
Can I? We all have a copy of it. Yeah, I met with Councilor Norris at about 4 p.m. We went to the old part of the jail to get in. We were refused entrance at that time. Miss Norris called Dorriety on her cell phone, and he wanted to know why I drug her in this. But please drive around to the new jail, and he would let her in there. We arrived at the administrator's office, and Dorriety, with all other Miss Norris's, falling at her feet, asking if he could do anything for her. We first went to the kitchen and looked at the food that had been prepared. A large portion of peas had fallen on the can, out of the can, and was under the railing. I asked one of the cooks if everyone received meat every day, and before he could respond, Dorriety ran over and got to about 2 inches from my face and told me that I will not talk to any of his people, and I didn't comply with his orders, he would march me out of there. He kept hollering for Miss Norris and asking if she was going to allow this. At that time, we all walked out of the hallway. Again, Dorriety jumped in my face like a schoolyard bully and told me that he didn't work for me or the council, and if I had a problem, go to the Cornell. I then asked to see the canteens, which 50% of the problems that we have arise from the complaints of the canteen. I then asked to see the canteen, and we were told that it was closed for the day. I asked again to see the canteen, that I was sure they had a key. Again, we were denied access to the canteen. We went into one of the female pods, and I was told that I was not allowed to talk to anyone. But then Mr. Dorriety asked Miss Norris if she would like to sit with a group of inmates and talk to them. I asked about the $5 charge that the other 50% of all the complaints I get, and I asked him about that, and I asked to see some printouts with just the $5 showing and how often, but I was told no one knew how to operate the computer. One girl walked up and tried to talk to me, but was scolded and was told no. All during this investigation, Dorriety walked with Miss Norris and introduced her to all of the staff and inmates, but completely ignored my presence. Dorriety had a Lieutenant Smith to stay by my side during the full investigation to run interference when I wanted to see something. One of the major concerns from the inmates was no soap on the showers. In one of the men's area, I found 2 showers that had soap. The infirmary showers had no soap. Mental ward had no soap. Red Pod had no soap. And as a matter of fact, out of all these showers that I checked, only 2 had soap. This investigation was totally hindered by Mr. Dorriety, and he keeps saying that, you know, he doesn't work for me, or he works for the council, but these people have to understand, all of these supervisors and department heads, that they ultimately work for the citizens of Greenville County. Now, a lot of them has forgotten, and I see that daily. But Mr. Dorriety, I really think that you should kind of back up and regroup and think this thing through here. You do work for the citizens. You work for these people out here. You work for the inmates. Your job is to take care of these people. Your job is not to bully them and not to try to scam them every way you can. So I want you to know that's how I feel about the situation. And if it cannot be corrected, then I will make every motion possible to see if I can find somebody who would be willing to serve the people of Greenville County. Thank you.
Mr. Dorriety.
I'm not saying give it away. You know, I'm saying, you know, let's, you know, if you make a profit, make a profit, but don't gouge them to death. That's what I'm saying. You know, Mr. Dorriety, not too long ago when we was in executive session, I said, what do we do with all this money? And you politely said, well, we turn it right back in and we buy medicine for the inmates. And come to find out, when I started digging and I started looking at the records, not one nickel went to medicine. It went to something else. So, you know, there's a lot of things here that's come from the last time we were here. I want to, you know, bring to your attention. The big thing is when I had all these people here, the families that was coming here to, to tell their story. I could only have 2 or 3 because it got so late we finally had to shut down. But a lot of people, after what the Greenville News did to them, to the people that talked, and then they were really glad that they didn't come up here and talk because of the retaliation. Bottom line is, I want to know how in the world did that guy get 26 sleeping pills in 2 days to commit suicide? That's the question that needs to be asked right there. Another question that needs to be asked, we had a lady on May 10th, she's sitting right here in the open area of the jail getting ready to have a baby. And the nurse says,
Let's stay focused.
I'm focused here, this is the last one right here.
This
is the $5 deal. This is the $5 deal. She didn't have that $5, so they stuck her back in insulation. So a little bit later there, that baby was born.
At the jail?
At the jail in her jumpsuit. In her jumpsuit. What do we do about that? This type of administration, this type of going on, it's got to stop. And I really do believe that with this new jail coming on board, Mr. Cannell, you need to look at a lot of things when it comes to new directors.
Okay, Mr. Trout.
Okay. When we say canteen, you're thinking of Zagnut bars and Milky Ways and all that. But that's not what it is. The canteen consists of, if you need shampoo, that's where you get your shampoo. If you need toothbrushes, if you need toothpaste, if you need underwear, if you need shoes, if you need socks, if you need antibacterial cream, anything whatsoever, you have to get it through the canteen. The Bibles, you have to get it through the canteen. Okay? They don't allow mama or wife to bring you your underwear because that would cut into the profit. You have to buy it there. Okay? So that's how it's set up, and that's why everything that you need comes from the canteen. So when people think of the canteen, well, they don't need that Coca-Cola, or they don't need that peanut butter bar. That's not what we're talking about here. I'm talking about the things that they need to survive on, to live like a human. Shut up, I doubt it. Is, only thing we need, they can call collect. Southern Bell loves it. Instead of charging these ungodly charges that they do with that PayPal or PayPal or however they do it, only thing we need to do is just let them charge, use the phone, call collect. No big deal. Okay? And then when it comes to this, with the work release program, okay, right now we're charging them 25% of whatever they make. One can be making $12 an hour, one can be making $5.25. But it's still, no matter what, 25% of your pay, buddy, we want. Okay? That needs to be looked at because that's not right. Why charge such one amount and one the other amount? There's a lot of things that needs to be changed, and there's a lot of things that needs to be looked at, and it hasn't been looked at, and it's been glossed over for years and years, and it's time for this committee to stand up and do something, and do it now. Thank you. Last time I was down there, that I was not allowed to come into the jail. Now, 11 other county council members are allowed to come into the jail at any time. And I'm going to make this clear, if I go down there and knock on that door, then I expect to be allowed in there. Unless you have a specific policy against all of us that don't try to just, pick me out because of my investigation of the jail. Now, is there a problem with that now?
Mr. Chair, you want me to address that?
Please do.
I don't know, who were you asking?
I was asking Mr. Doherty.
Oh, okay.